live on YouTube, and listen back on Spotify. This is the World of Football podcast.
Good evening, and more importantly, Happy New Year. Welcome back to the World Football Podcast for, well, technically it's season 1, because we are now obviously on Spotify, but we're going to be looking at 40 years of the World of Football Podcast. That is just incredible. But first things first, let's get the business end out of the way. Please, everyone in the chat, if you are watching, if you're listening back on Spotify, give a massive welcome back to the legend below the creator, Mr. Douglas Horn. How are you doing, mate?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for asking me to be on the first show of 2024, and Happy New Year to everybody as well. Hope you're both well, and thank you very much for asking me to be on. It's a pleasure to be back.
Fantastic stuff. Reece is going to be joining us a little later. Mr. Julio Leshy, how are you, sir?
Yeah, not too bad. Listen, it's good to be back on the show, and it's great to have Doug back. I think this is only the second show I've done with him, but given how many comment sections we've both been in, it feels like we've been around each other a lot. So it's really good to see him face to face again. Let's just hope, from a United perspective, 2024 is better than 2023, albeit a low bar. So we'll see what happens.
100%. As I'll probably say with Manchester United, which I'm sure the man to the right of me is going to get onto later on. Can it get any worse? But we'll save that for the show. First of all, there is only one place to start, I think. Liverpool. Let's go to Merseyside. Top at Christmas, top at New Year. Life's got to be good for a Liverpool fan at the moment. Obviously in Europa League, however, good momentum moving in to obviously build some momentum in the competition, maybe push for the knockout stages, even to win it, for example. Obviously, we were discussing backstage as well, that aside from the Conference League, which that must be an absolute disaster for you guys to get in. That's not me being arrogant or anything, but Conference League, for the size of the club that Liverpool is and where you are as a football club, isn't really in the reach for you guys to win. But aside from that, it's just the Europa League that's outstanding. And what have you made of it so far, Doug?
Never in my wildest dreams that I think we'd be top of this stage in the season. I think it's remarkable as well, considering the amount of midfield options we lost in the summer. Fabinho, Milner, Henderson, Firmino. Basically Klopp has sort of transformed his entire midfield almost. He's obviously got Wataru Endo, he's got Ryan Gravenberch, Dominic Szoboszlai as well, and I think as well the emergence of Harvey Elliott coming off the bench, Curtis Jones. This whole squad now is so rejuvenated that they are very, very much together as well, and I just think that we are grinding results out as well. I've noticed a few games this season where we haven't played well, but we've managed to grind out the result. It almost sort of reminds me of 1920. We were steamrolling teams, and then we were grinding out games like that as well. I've been very, very impressed. And look, the funniest thing is, Arsenal were top at Christmas, and they fell down to 4th after 2 defeats in a row. Football is a very, very strange sport, and we all know that if you have a couple of defeats, you can go back down the table. Look what's happened to Manchester City. They've had a couple of defeats this season. The only thing that's kind of blotted on my opinion on this season is we've had 6 draws. I really hope that the draws don't come back to bite us, because there's some draws in there where I look at them and I think we probably should have won, or maybe very, very fortunate to get a draw. But so far so good, and I'm just going to basically just enjoy this season and see what happens.
Absolutely fantastic. So compared to your expectations, and obviously what you're seeing at the moment, obviously from the start of the season, your expectations now, etc., What for you would make a very good season for Liverpool at the moment?
I think Europa League, because I said obviously backstage that Europa League is the only trophy Jurgen Klopp's not won as Liverpool manager. So to get that, to complete the set, would be absolutely fantastic. Carabao Cup, I know we've got Fulham. I think a lot of people are probably looking at the two sort of semis. I no disrespect, obviously, Fulham and Middlesbrough, but I think many people are probably seeing Liverpool-Chelsea potential final again, like it was in obviously 2022. Which wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. But we have to remember Fulham are a very, very good side. Middlesbrough have been very, very good in the Championship. So, those two semi-finals are going to be very, very interesting. The FA Cup is a lot more difficult. Like, we'll obviously get into the FA Cup in a wee bit as well. But I think we can win at least 2 trophies this season. That would be very, very good. My expectations actually at the start of the season was basically get back in the Champions League. Now that we're obviously, top, we're obviously 5 points ahead of Manchester City. I know they've got a game in hand, but you would rather be in this position than have a game in hand, in my opinion.
I completely agree, because obviously with the game in hand, I feel whenever like my club or etc. any other club with it is in that position, it does put way too much pressure and expectation on that team, especially if you're coming into a really difficult fixture as well. It can just cause you to crumble. But we will move on to your FA Cup tie, speaking about it as well. Arsenal away at the Emirates. What a draw that is, first of all. I mean, it's probably the second best tie behind a certain one that we'll give a little shout out to in a bit. But with your expectations, do you go full strength with this? Does Jurgen Klopp think, okay, let's rest a few heads, let's experiment a little bit, or what's your sort of expectation going into it?
I would go full strength. The reason I would go full strength is I know we've obviously got Fulham on Wednesday, but after the Fulham game, we don't have another game until a week. I think it's Bournemouth away. I think the next again Sunday, because obviously we've got this sort of mini winter break coming up, and then we're actually in the sort of the wee mini break, I think, on the 14th, 15th of January. So there's basically no games for us then. So I would like to see us go full strength against Arsenal. I think Arsenal are in a bit of a rut at the moment. But actually, the funniest thing is we've not beaten Arsenal in the FA Cup since 2001, since a certain Michael Owen scored at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff to win the FA Cup. So it has been a long, long time since we beat Arsenal. But in fact, someone did actually say to me that we have actually only played them 3 times in the past 23 years. So it kind of just goes to So it is quite a long time since we last played them as well. But I think if we play like we did against Newcastle, we had so many chances to kill them off. It could have been about 8 or 9-2 that game. I honestly think that we go there. Look, we're obviously missing Salah. We're obviously missing Endo. We've obviously got Jota, who absolutely loves to go against Arsenal. I think it's a really, really good chance to go far. But then again, Arsenal will be feeling the same. They've had a bit of a rut, and they'll be feeling like they can probably go through. It's a fascinating tie. Would I want a replay? Probably not. I'd probably want to try and get the tie over. But we do have a good recent record against Arsenal at the Emirates.
Absolutely, and obviously, if that, I mean, it is FA Cup, so it might not affect it. But if you can tie that recent league form into it, I think now's the right time to play him, to be honest. And if you add that momentum in with a 3rd round victory over them, that's going to put you automatically as one of the favourites to win the whole thing as well, considering the current league position and pedigree you've had for the last couple of years. But Julio, do you have anything to add further about Liverpool?
I mean, Doug's touched on it all there. I've got not much to add. I don't think any of us expected them to win the league this year, just because there was a whole midfield rebuild. I still don't think they have that stability and control in their midfield. It's why we're seeing basketball games essentially with the transition from end to end with them. They're grinding results though. they know how to win. 1920, Doug touched upon it, is a perfect example. You'd get they'd blow teams away that year, but then they'd also grind out late goals, like the 2-1 against Villa at Villa Park. Mane got the goal, I think 5 minutes from time.
Yeah.
That kind of example. Liverpool still have that. The squad is refreshed with the new signings and some of the old heads going out. Hopefully, for a Liverpool, not for United's sake, but for Liverpool's sake, hopefully they can strengthen, because they still need strengthening. They still need 2 or 3 defenders, 1 starter and 2 covers for right back and left back, because you can't keep relying on Joe Gomez to cover full back spots.
Yeah.
No.
Hopefully, because Endo's look good, but you still need that. What Fabinho was and how good he was part of a very good spine. You don't have that. And there's question marks about where the goals are going to come from. I mean, Doug, obviously you touched upon it before we went live. Obviously, the goals are being shared, and that's really good to see. Salah's obviously going to AFCON. Where are the goals going to come from? Diaz hasn't hit the heights. Jota pops up with a goal and sometimes hides bad performances with stats like that.
Yeah.
And Darwin Núñez doesn't know what foot he wants to shoot with half the time. That's no disrespect to him, because when he can pull a blinder and then he can miss a sitter. So he's a bit of a weird one. So I just think overall that they're not a title-winning side, but I think, because I've always said since the start of the season it will be an 85-point season. I still think City will win it, but I think it will just be because I don't think Arsenal and Liverpool have what it takes to eclipse City, and I just think City will, because Man City are Man City, they'll pick it up second half of the season. They won't get as many points as they have done the last few seasons.
Yeah.
But they'll essentially win it because they didn't have the fall off everyone else did. You know what I mean?
I think you're hitting it right on the head there. Manchester City haven't started this season. They've not really got into sort of that winning gear yet, and I think most of that has been down to the fact that Kevin De Bruyne has been missing. Big player like Kevin De Bruyne is so pivotal as well. But I do have to say, I know they are missing Holland, but if they didn't have Rodri in that team, they are a completely different team without Rodri in the side.
I completely
100%.
agree. And a lot of those games where they were grinding out those draws as well, in particular November, early to late December as well. I think a couple of those could have been losses just with the overrun in midfield with it as well. But boy, have they been so lucky. And I never thought I'd say this considering the amount of money they've spent, but I feel like they need to strengthen or use the assets they have. Cough, cough, Calvin Phillips.
I don't think their bench is as strong as last season.
They've let a lot go.
Yeah,
they brought in a bunch of new faces, but those people have gone were there for years. Mahrez, Gundogan, they were part of the first 2 or 3 trophies that they won. Like Mahrez wasn't there for Centurions, but he was there for 18-19, for example. There's almost like the winning culture has not gone a bit, but those who had already got it, they've gone. They're replacing them with Kovacic, who good player, won a few trophies, obviously, but then Doku, for example, inexperienced. Jack Grealish, you're asking him to do more now. You know, Calvin Phillips isn't playing as much. You know, Fernandinho went, they brought him in. He's not, he's clearly not fancied by Pep. So even by Pep standards, where he'll go for a couple of months, he won't play someone, and then next 2 months he'll play them every game. So I think that next summer we could see a big window for City, like 4, maybe even 5 players coming in.
100%. And I think as well, Gundogan and Mahrez have been big misses, because Mahrez on his day, he was able to win a game on his own. Like he could do what he could do. Gundogan again as well, he could win a game on his own as well. So I think those two being away from Manchester City has kind of made them a little bit, I wouldn't say weaker, but they're definitely a lot less sort of I don't think they've been as clinical as they have been recently as well. And as Nathan rightly pointed out, look at some of those results. Like they lost to Aston Villa, didn't never look like scoring against Aston Villa. You look at the Wolves game. Yes, apart from obviously Alvarez's free kick, didn't look like scoring in that game as well. And then like they have stupid draws like Crystal Palace at home. Like they were 2-0 up against Crystal Palace, and then they managed to let them back in. So they do have a bit of games like that as well. I think sort of the difference between sort of us and City is that we've been kind of beating teams like 3-4-0 at Anfield, whereas they've been sort of grinding out sort of 4-2s and 3-1s and 2-1s. City are definitely not the team that they once were, but they're still very, very dangerous. They can just go on a run like that. So we've just got to continue what we're doing. Don't focus on anyone else. Just focus on ourselves and see what happens.
Completely agree. Moving on to Manchester United. FA Cup this weekend. And also there is some big news as well that we're going to chuck in. Julio. So Jim Ratcliffe. Looks like it's going to be pending approval. It's going to be taking a bit of control. What's your expectations for the weekend and thoughts on it?
So, touching on the Wigan game, it's a cup tie. It'll be interesting to watch. If Wigan cause an upset, it wouldn't surprise me. If we win 2-0, it wouldn't surprise me. I hope a lot of the I hope a lot of the second team players get a chance. And I mean that because listen, I don't mean it in the sense of, because a part of the problem of our fan base is if someone's not doing well, we'll look at who's not starting and we'll make them out to be something they're not, like Donny van de Beek, for example. Obviously, he's just gone out on loan, so people aren't going to be asking him to play. Mm-hmm. But I'm talking the likes of Bayindir and other players who aren't playing enough. Amrabat's come in. I thought he would be better. I don't know if the fact he didn't have a pre-season is causing any kind of issue with him in terms of settling in. So I'd love for us to go on a cup run in the FA Cup, but I just don't think this team are good enough to challenge try and get into the top four and for the FA Cup. I like the Europa League personally, but I was like, if we're not going to go through in the Champions League, just finish fourth.
Yeah.
Because as much as I would have loved for us to go and win the Europa League, this team just can't hack it. So I think that it's an opportunity, hopefully, for some players and the manager himself to see who else has he got at his disposal, use them, see what they're about, and see if there's something he's missed or something he can work with. Because a lot of decisions that Ten Hag has made in games has either cost us or has caused us fans to question, like, what is he thinking here? The Mainu McTominay change against Forest, for example, report came out that it was due to the fact that the teenager had played twice in the same week and was looking quite tired. That's fair enough. I understand that. Of course, he's going to come out and say, I've got no regrets for resting Mainu because he was tired. But, at the end of the day, it's a cup tie. It's going to be hopefully an entertaining watch. So we'll see on that regard, because, FA Cup weekend in January is always fun. The third round, everyone loves that weekend, no matter who you support. In terms of Jim Ratcliffe, I've never been convinced by this 25% sporting control news that's come out. I don't know how much of it to read into. It's one of those where it's like, I'll believe he has control when I actually see it. There's apparently this clause that within 18 months he can have the opportunity for a full takeover. If United are in a better place in 18 months' time, I don't see the Glazers selling fully. So I'm taking that with a pinch of salt. It could be true and it could happen, but just based on the Glazers told us they were looking at a full sale, and they basically played, well, if you're willing to pay 6 billion, we want 7 billion, and that with Qatar, for example, for the last year or so. So I don't know what to make of it. in terms of what it's more, I don't like sections of the media stating that, accusing United fans almost of saying Jim Ratcliffe is not the answer. He's not going to bring you back. I don't think anyone is saying that. I think it's more hope than belief. With every manager we've had, we can hope they could win the league. Whether it was Louis, whether it was Jose, whether it's Oli, whether it was even Moyes, we hoped they would succeed. Obviously, however much time passes and we realize, well, maybe they were wrong for this reason or that. You know, Nathan, obviously know your opinions on Oli, and the same with Reece's opinions on Oli as well. But you see, the majority of the fan base will give someone coming in the chance to prove themselves. Even with Richard Arnold, when he sat down with the fans at the pub, I was like, this is relatively promising. Mourinho was on a podcast recently and praised Richard Arnold. So that obviously makes me think, would have been interesting to see that when Mourinho was in charge. That's not saying that would have worked, but, you know, because of the shit show that was Ed Woodward, you know, just imagine there was a change of some kind. You know, what ifs? You know, I imagine what if Jose came in and recreated his 11-12 Real Madrid team and what they did with us. Not the same players, but, you know, like with what he was bringing in.
Yeah.
Jim Ratcliffe, obviously, we know what he needs to do off the pitch. CEO, there's reports about a sporting director in Dan Ashworth and a head of recruitment in Paul Mitchell. I like that, but I think that he needs to stamp his vision immediately. Not, let's get him because he's good at that. Because you also need an idea of what you want to do. You know, you don't want to bring in these guys and then turn around and say, I want to bring them in to do their thing, but for this person's vision or something. Do you know what I mean? He needs to, because, for example, if you look at Paul Mitchell, everywhere he's gone, will have obviously done things differently depending on the visions at clubs. At Leipzig, for example, with the Red Bull group, and then obviously with Southampton and with Spurs, similar aspects, still obviously they're different things. There's many different people being linked with the job. You can't tell me that Maldini and then Dan Ashworth or Paul Mitchell are all the same person in terms of what they can offer to the table. I think that I'm curious what would happen with the manager, because whilst they would take the time to look at how good, not just the manager and his staff and the players as well, but because there's a little bit from an article that's been doing the rounds recently about Ten Hag wanting control in transfers. There needs to be a balance. And if Ten Hag's not happy, then unfortunately for Ten Hag, there's going to be a standoff, and it could be, unfortunately, it could be P45 and out the door, etc. The other thing is, if Ten Hag was to go, what is your plan for what you want to be and who do you want to come in? And the Graham Potter links are worrying, because whilst I like the idea, because modern football clubs, in modern football now, you get people focusing on the recruitment and the football side from upstairs, and then Graham Potter would come in theoretically and focus on the coaching. Unfortunately, I don't think we are in a position now to be looking at, because firstly, it's a backward step, because we're already 18 months into Ten Hag's reign and we're already ripping that up and going elsewhere. That's not a good sign. You've got to know what it is you want. And I just think that there's been many comparisons, even from when Ten Hag was hired, that we've had the proven winner, we've had someone who's won different trophies in different countries, we've had the club legend, we're in our Brendan Rodgers era, effectively. So the next manager that comes in has to be our Klopp, essentially. Graham Potter is not of that ilk. It has to be someone of the elite. I don't know what vision is going to come in upstairs, but I'll raise a question to both of you, and I was hoping to raise it to Reece if he was here, but he would have not played by the rules and he would have just kept going Simeone, because he would have been organised, as was happening all Christmas when I asked him. Gentlemen, what manager out there could be considered elite that would come into what this new look Man United could be based on what we're reading? Doug, I'll ask you first. Any suggestions?
It's a very good question.
I'll take it.
For me, I'd say Hansi Flick. Because of like what he did at Bayern Munich, I think he would be able to sort of come in and he obviously implement his style. I know it didn't really work out for him as obviously Germany manager. I suppose you could obviously say Nagelsmann potentially. Like Carlo Ancelotti would be the big one for me. He's a world class manager. I think he's now signed an extension now to Real Madrid. So obviously Simeone would be magnificent. Zidane potentially, but it's not who sort of comes in. It's basically the problem of the Glazers still being there.
The Glazers, yes, the Glazers. I mean, the Glazers are a problem. I'm not going to sit here. The Glazers have to go to be successful, but based on what I've seen Liverpool do with their business model and what I've seen Arsenal do with their business model, I'm not saying the Glazers will do that, but I'm hoping Jim Ratcliffe will have some. I'm thinking from a perspective of if we were to go forward in some way and at least challenge for stuff with the same kind of recruitment policy, because they haven't spent enormous amounts of money without receiving some, especially Arsenal. They've spent big money in summer transfer windows, but it's not like they've spent 60, 70 million per player. They've bought 4 or 5 players in 30, 40, maybe even 50 million pound each. And I think we'd be going in that direction. My one worry would be, apart from the Glazers, forgetting about the Glazers for now, because right now the problem's on the pitch. It's not Malcolm Glazer like not marking someone at the back post that heads it back into the middle and suddenly Aston Villa are 2-0 up. Do you know what I mean? I'm trying to look at it away specifically from the Glazers. And if you're going to put the people in place, who could fit? Because obviously you need a vision at the top. And I just don't think... Graham Potter, I think, proved that he couldn't manage a big club. I know not all the Chelsea stuff is his fault.
And that would be my big concern as well if he came into United. I think he would be a rabbit in headlights. I think he wouldn't do that. Well, look, I like Graham Potter. I think he did fantastic at Brighton, but I think the Chelsea job just came at the wrong time for him.
I think so as well. Yeah,
and I think as well the big problem I have with United at this moment in time, it's not so much sort of the players coming; it's the wage structure. Like I think you had one of the highest wage structures in the Premier League. I think it probably was the highest, and I think as well the signings this summer have not been good at all. I think the only one I think you could probably say who has been very, very good has been Rasmus Højlund. The rest have been average.
Yeah, for me, and that just goes back to, once again, the recruitment strategy under the Glazers, sort of signing these big names in, then obviously
spending huge amounts of money with no real thought.
Absolutely.
Casemiro is not Casemiro, as much as I love the guy and what he's done in football and what he's done since he's been at United. £70 million. Is he a 5-year player?
That should have been a signing. That should have been a signing in sort of the later Fergie years. That should have been one that should have been an 8, a 9, a 10-year, because Casemiro at that time was one of the best defensive midfielders in the world at that point. But I think getting him now, when he's obviously, he's starting to sort of get into the plum years of his career. I think was a mistake. Look, I think Casemiro has been a very good signing for you guys as well. I think the biggest concern for me, if I was United support, is the ongoing situation with Rafael Varane's contract, because I think if you lose him, especially with I did actually read earlier that you are potentially wanting to extend Martial's contract. Honestly, just get him away.
That is.
I do not know why you're trying to extend his contract.
I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day with Martial, consistently, I think that he is nowhere near warranted the amount he came in for. And considering the fact that, okay, sometimes, he's going to be a winger, he's a number 9. The amount of chopping and changing of position is ridiculous and what is expected of him. And on both sides of the equation, I think he's massively underachieving. So the fact that
hence the name he gets when he Anthony Partial. because you just don't know what you're
Exactly.
going to, you don't know what you're going to get with them. I honestly, I think Manchester United have been an absolute embarrassment this season.
Yeah.
I said it last night. I honestly think these players are trying to throw Ten Hag under the bus. They did it with obviously previous managers, and the problem is as well, Old Trafford is no longer a fortress. There's teams going there. There's teams playing you off the park. Bournemouth played you off the park. That should have been about 4, 5, 6. City played you off the park. Obviously that was quite easy, but it's not so much the sort of the results. You haven't really had, I think, barring Everton away, you haven't had a very convincing win.
Even Everton wasn't a convincing win, because Everton had a lot of chances that game.
Yeah.
Calvert-Lewin should have scored at least one of those chances that he had. We haven't really had any convincing. We've had convincing spells, maybe like 20 minutes in a game where we've looked good, and we still went on and lost.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. There's a lot of questions for the players, for the manager, for the coaching staff, for the board. Just questions for everyone. So we can only hope that the new owner, Jim Ratcliffe, with his 25%, so Dave Brailsford, and anyone else they bring in, could come in, look at what's wrong, and finally eradicate it. Because you mentioned the wage structure.
Yeah.
2020/21, out of the top 5 goalkeepers in the league, highest paid, both our goalkeepers were in that list. David De Gea, Dean Henderson had just come back from a Sheffield United loan and unnecessarily was given 120 grand a week contract based on what he'd done at Sheffield United.
Yeah.
He had just signed an extension the year before for 79 grand a week, something like that. So he'd come back from his loan, was given a 50 grand pay rise, 50 grand pay rise, didn't start until halfway through the season.
Yeah.
And then got COVID the summer after and was never seen as first choice again. And when you look at other player wages and stuff, like Martial had one good solid season, if not a second half of the season where he was fully like on form, and was given ridiculous money. And he's not matched anywhere near that ever since. And he's gone out on loan, and he didn't exactly pull up trees there either. It's almost like Mourinho was right with some of these players. But hindsight is a wonderful thing.
It absolutely is.
I think as well, Bruno Fernandes doesn't strike me captain material. He never has, and I don't think he ever will. So I think that's another decision to sort of be made. Is the captaincy being a bit of a burden on Bruno?
I think that I have said this before. Listen, when Bruno came in, he had almost like a Cantona effect. I think Jamie Carragher spoke about this just before Bruno signed, because we just lost 2-0 at Anfield.
Yeah.
And he said, sometimes it's never as bad as you think. And then, like Suarez came into Liverpool when we saw that effect. Bruno Fernandes had that effect for a couple of years, but now it's just that effect that he had has fizzled out.
Yeah.
So it's almost a case of like, what are we relying on now? Because the effect that had is now fizzled out. It's expired. We haven't got that. We could sit here and say we need that one player to come in again. I don't know if it's a striker signing or like the way Van Dijk revitalized Liverpool when he came in. But you take the captaincy of Bruno, which I admit, it seems like sometimes he's trying too hard. Who else would you give it to? Varane's not playing enough. Casemiro's not playing enough. Martinez maybe, but he's been injured for half the season already. I hope this is not a reoccurring issue with him. But it's where else are you going to give it? It's a problem, and I think that a team takes time to build. But I don't know. I don't know what point we are as a football club, because the ownership might come in like Ten Hag and then eventually turn around and go, well, we've given you time, but it's getting to the point now where it's going to be less about what have you done for us so far and what can you do for us. Ten Hag's won us a trophy, maybe overachieved last season with third place finish, playing the same team every game. really took its toll. And I just worry that like he's not going to survive. If it keeps going like this with the amount of losses, he isn't going to survive. I think I researched Arsenal in their banter era with Arteta in that COVID year. It took them till February the 6th in a later starting season to lose 12 games in all comps. And we remember how bad they were. It took us until early December to match that.
It's ridiculous.
And the quality of players in our dressing room is a lot better than that Arsenal side. So it is worrying. And at least, even though there were formation changes with that Arsenal side, they were, whether it was a 3-back, whether it was a 5-back, whether it was a 4-back, they were trying to do what Arteta was asking them to do. We've seen every week Ten Hag is abandoning his principles in different ways, even if it is playing the likes of McTominay. So I don't know, there's just so much going wrong right now. And I just feel like if you get the right people upstairs, it might filter down. Eventually, they might turn around and say, Ten Hag isn't the right man. We want to go a different direction. I still maintain it needs to be someone of the elite. It has to be someone who can eclipse Klopp or Guardiola. If Ten Hag's not the man, Graham Potter certainly isn't, in my opinion.
No.
Even if he focuses on the coaching, it needs to be someone who can come in and galvanize the club and can handle such a big club. I don't know who that could be, because it has to match the vision. You know, Zidane works, I think, if it's a Galacticos approach. We don't even have the Galactico players, let alone the structure in place to match that. And there's so many other names that you can just see, that you just can't see them eclipsing Klopp or Guardiola or matching what Man United's been in the past. If you want to go back to attacking football, unpredictable attacking football of the past, which is what Man United were, even if you consider Thomas Tuchel of the elite, he's not going to bring that.
No.
So I don't know. I just hope, I can only hope that they steer clear of mediocre appointments, because if they're going to bring in Graham Potter, they might as well bring back Ole Gunnar Solskjaer or someone or a club legend, someone who knew the club.
It'll just be rinse and repeat.
Exactly.
There on there.
Do you know what I mean? It's like people slagged off United for rewarding mediocrity with Ole.
Yeah.
You're not going to get much. Do you know what I mean? It's like if you get Graham Potter, it's not going to be that much better apart from buzzwords, maybe like pattern to play and all that. So
I think as well, you hit on the nail on the head as well. Wigan Athletic is a banana skin. I think a lot of people will probably expect United to go there and win, but the way United are going at this moment in time, we know their away form is not the best this season. I wouldn't be too shocked if Wigan get a result against United. I would not be surprised in the slightest. And if that happens, then you can basically write the season off.
The thing I will say as well, in particular with Wigan, that's going to put them up for it, is I believe they're currently bottom of League 2 as well. I know they've had ridiculous amount of points deductions, but they are going to be proper fired up for it. It's at home. It's a very, very local tie. Rivals with Manchester United, you could say, or Wigan consider you guys rivals, or Julio, you guys rivals. So I seriously think they're going to be put up for it. Man United is going to give them far too much respect and could get overturned, because at the end of the day, they need something to bolster their season.
I think the situation with Onana is an absolute joke as well.
Oh, it is.
What, this whole negotiation of playing 2 games in 2...
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. He made his bed, let him go to AFCON, give Bayern a chance. I don't see the hassle, because it's not like... He's not undroppable at the moment, Onana. No. He's not playing to a standard where I can say, I understand that. I like him. I like Onana. I love what he was last season. I like when you look at what he can bring to the table, I like that. But he's not cutting it at the minute. Now you can hope he can settle in. But at the same time, it's a lot of these players are either playing substandard because they are substandard, or playing substandard because something's going wrong. Like it's like everyone has hit bad form at the same time.
Yeah.
There's just a lot that needs sorting out upstairs, in the dressing room, everywhere, and you can only hope it all just feeds down. I'm not calling for a manager change, but because of discussion and people, there's all these links, I worry that it will be the wrong appointment. We've made so many of those, and I just worry about it.
And that aids absolutely perfect timing.
He really picked his moment, didn't he?
Reece, Manchester United.
Hello,
just in
Welcome to
time.
the dance, Reece. Welcome to the dance.
Welcome to the dance.
I call that aptly timed after being up for well over 35 hours. I call that very good luck that I turn up at the moment. It'll probably put me back to sleep.
But yeah, we were just rounding up on
Man United versus
Manchester
Wigan.
United. Yes. Nervous?
I wouldn't say nervous. I would just say, is it worth even United being there?
Can we COVID it? Can we call in sick?
I mean, we could, but technically, we could, but you'd get fined for it now. So, nah. It should be a game that United breeze. If United don't breeze Wigan, then there's even bigger problems than what we already thought was already there. So that makes it even more fun. How much of a problem we are.
100%.
It's an away game, so that's even more fun. The fact that it's been an away game for 3 years, 3-4 years, haven't had a single away cup tie, so that record's over. I mean, that to be fair, that's a record that everybody wanted over because an away game is what you want. I'm up for the Wigan games have always been fun with Man United. They've always been like fun games to watch, especially with two like clubs within that greater Manchester area. So if anything, it's significant. So I'll watch it. I think we'll still win it, but if they do not turn up, then there's even bigger questions to ask, especially certain individuals that are always in the crossfire.
Completely agree. So, just to round up the last topic, obviously, for the FA Cup preview, I'm just going to quick fire some games. Just going to get you guys' thoughts on it before we get on to this man in the thumbnail behind us, let's just say, and then obviously the tier list. So, going to start with, obviously, we've got Crystal Palace Everton on at the moment. It's currently 0-0. That's a wicked tie, that is. Where should we go first? I really want to give Doug this one. Tyne-Weir Derby at the Stadium of Light. What a tie that is.
It's the tie of the round. Apart from obviously like Arsenal-Liverpool, that is the tie of the round for me. We haven't had a Sunderland Newcastle game for a long time, and actually the way things are going at this moment in time, this is a game Eddie Howe must not lose.
Yes.
Honestly, I think Newcastle have been really poor. I think it's 7 defeats out of the last 8 games, I think, or 6 defeats out of the last 7 games. It has been shockingly bad for Newcastle, and I've got to say it. Big crowds, Stadium of Light. This has all the makings for a wee upset. I actually fancy Sunderland to beat Newcastle, and I am actually going to go for them to win 2-1.
Wow. That is.
Can I just point out, it won't be funny because Reece, I'll ask you this question. Will it be funnier because the barcode merchants got humbled or because Michael Beale won the game?
We know I've got a few more words to that entire name that I called Liverpool, not Liverpool, Newcastle. Liverpool, I've got a special name for them as well. So the barcode beheaded barcode merchants. Put it this way: if they don't snap the sword off Sunderland's heat, then we really need to ask questions, because performance-wise, Eddie Howe can get all the praise that Newcastle fans claim he deserves, but they've been absolutely diabolical for months. Like
Mhm.
Eddie Howe, I don't
100%.
think Eddie Howe hasn't done anything to justify his position either. And I said at the very start of the season, and people called me insane. I said at the start of the season, Eddie Howe will be one of the managers that get sacked. And the reason I listed this is because of the Champions League. And he finished 4th in the Champions League group, and Newcastle fans said they were getting through. I was like, no, yous are finishing 4th. He's finished 4th. So I've already proven you wrong, Newcastle fans. Additionally, they're already they're not going to win the League Cup. Yeah, they beat Man United, but they're not going to do anything in the League Cup because they've got nothing to get from that. They're not even getting to the final because they're not even in the semi. You've got an FA Cup tie against Sunderland where the record against Sunderland in recent years has been absolutely shocking. Where they've had better squads than Sunderland, and Sunderland have still beat them.
Sunderland
often
sacked
by-
managers and still beating them.
Mhm.
Their new manager,
By-
Newcastle kept getting new manager bounced.
And it's always 4+ goals. It's beautiful. But
Sunderland are unbeaten in the last 10 derbies.
That's
Yep,
incredible, that start.
yeah,
But there hasn't been a
And when I
derby
look-
since 2016. Am I right in saying that?
Yes.
yeah.
They were good
Yeah.
games.
The one
In
thing
the early 2010s, they were good games.
I was actually at the last
They're
derby, believe it or not. I was actually at the last Tynamere derby. Fabio Barini scored the winner. That was the 15-16 season. That was the season that Sunderland went down.
You mean Newcastle?
Yeah, that's right.
Sunderland went down the season after. Yeah,
How things have changed, though.
One thing that
It's
is-
mental.
yeah. One thing that still remains though is that Sunderland are either gonna really show up with a point to prove with the recent unbeaten record, or Michael Beale's gonna get out tacticked by Eddie Howe. And if
Low
I was
bar.
any manager and I got out tacticked by Michael Beale, I'd retire. I'd retire on the spot. So if Eddie Howe doesn't win this game, he should just lose his job by proxy. Because Newcastle
think
aren't
so.
getting Champions League football next year either.
I said it, and I'll stand by it. He must not lose this game, because I think if he loses this game, he's in big trouble. I think his downfall last season was to get in that 4th place. It clearly shows that they overachieved last season as well.
Yeah.
I think as well, a lot of people said last season, yes, Newcastle can defend very, very well last season. I think we're now kind of slowly seeing that Eddie Howe teams can't defend.
I mean, we saw it with massive
It's been his Achilles heel since he was at Bournemouth, and then obviously Burnley. His teams just can't defend.
Like we did see it at Bournemouth
worst
as well,
thing is,
especially
though,
towards the tail end of that era as well, where he did end up leaving by mutual. But I think
But there's
the
something
way that
strange there, though,
Sunderland really
'cause they-
pressed forward, that's scary.
It is strange though, because they have been defending well, Newcastle. Like when they've played, they've defended really well. So it really is begging the question of, are these players just thinking, maybe this is as far as we can go? I don't know, but you can't be thinking that so quickly when it's only his 2nd full season. If that's the player's attitude already, then there's something even bigger going on. But Newcastle fans will try and put a spin on it that makes it look perfect. I still stand by it. They're not a good team. Aston Villa are better than them. Unai Emery has done better than Eddie Howe's done. Newcastle fans will try to argue that all day long, and there's no evidence to support it because Newcastle had even less points than Aston Villa for the whole calendar year of 2023, which is another point that can be proven. So if Newcastle fans want to try and claim that Howe's done better than Unai Emery, then they need to give their head a wobble. No money, and they've been outperformed.
Completely agree.
And I'm going
Moving
3-0 Sunderland, by the way.
Wow. I cannot wait for 12:30 on Saturday. That's all I'll say.
Can't
at
wait.
this point.
It's one of those games where You literally just have to like watch because of the two teams, the history between the two teams as well. It's going to be a hell of a game on Saturday, and I for one can't wait to watch.
It's going to be funny. The banter that follows this on social media. If Newcastle lose, this will be absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And they deserve this. They deserve this humbling for how they've acted towards other league fans in the space of 6 to 9 months, thinking they're that big a football club. I'm sorry, but if you were a big football club, we would actually take interest. You've got money, but I'm not looking through the season going, oh, Newcastle. Oh, there's the Newcastle fixture at Old Trafford. Newcastle. Oh, St James's Park. No. This is what I'm looking for. Liverpool. Arsenal. Man City. Chelsea. Oh wait, where's Newcastle?
The only time we focus on our games against Newcastle is we look at how long till I have to mute them again. Oh, for God's sake.
No, then every time we look for a Newcastle game is when we're heading to the centre. We need to go to shopping. It's cashier number 4, please.
Oh, that's incredible. Absolutely love that.
I'm never gonna stop slandering Newcastle just because I think some of their fans are good, but the rest of their online fan base have really. It's weird. They went from being a decent fan base to being absolutely insane.
If anything,
Overnight,
it solidifies that Sunderland is better. Apart from the fact that in the 2000s they had a United link.
Yeah. Sunderland are still a bigger club. Factually speaking, Sunderland are still a bigger club and they're in a lower division.
The thing I will say with Newcastle as well, they have very short memories. But moving on, looking at the rest of the fixtures, I can't see many other giant killings there, but I'm gonna do a few yes or no's actually. Coventry Oxford, could we see one there?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Interesting. Pick out a few more as well just before we move on. Norwich Bristol Rovers. Norwich have been in terrible form.
No.
Difficult one.
No. Not on that one.
Interesting. West Ham Bristol City. West Ham resurged a lot.
Not for me.
I can. The only reason I can is because of West Ham. West Ham been playing so well recently, where they've kept 4 clean sheets in a row in the league. Which
I think they'll over-rotate.
A long time.
I think Moyes will over-rotate the team.
I don't think that's the reason. I think they'll just get overconfident. I think overconfidence will creep in because they've been playing so well. They'll think they can just turn up and blitz. Them. I think they might have that kind of attitude. So if anything, I don't think it's because they'll play bad. I just think they'll be a little bit too cocky. That's it. I think that's the only reason they'll lose.
Fair enough.
I think so. Yeah, I'm sorry I'm speaking through it quick. I want to get it. I'm so looking forward to this tier list, honestly. But
Nathan, who do you lot have?
We have Sheffield Wednesday. Sort of the most mundane,
you can't lose
boring.
that, man. You can't lose.
No, they won't. No, they're losing. Cardiff are losing.
Well, they're going to.
They're going to.
I'm saying they can't, but they're going to. 100%.
The thing is with me on
Cardiff are losing free. Cardiff will lose 3-2 to Sheffield Wednesday.
Reece is going to be there straight away. When it happens, bang. I don't know why I can see that coming, but my take on it is there's no way we're going to get promoted. There's no way we're going to get relegated this season unless an absolute disaster class happens, which is Cardiff City, so we can't,
I was going to say,
can't rule anything out.
Cardiff City.
It is. Yep. Why not go for a cup run? We haven't had the opportunity to go on one in years. Let's really push for it and put respect in the cup.
When was the last time you went on one? 2012?
A really decent cup run was, I think the last one. Well, you can't even say Liverpool 2 seasons ago because that was only the 4th round. It is probably 2012.
You went to the final of the League Cup, so
we did. Yeah,
Still
2
can't
cup
run
finals,
by
2 losses. But from the championship, that's still an incredible achievement, no matter which way you look at it. But
100%.
yes. Aside from that, who wants to absolutely lay into Wayne Rooney? Who wants to go first?
Me? One
Take
of
your
the
look.
worst appointments in championship history. Was anyone shocked this was coming? I think a lot of people said when he was appointed he wasn't going to last. And I think it was it 88 days in charge? Like, that is just awful. 13 weeks. Look, Wayne Rooney has been nothing short of a disaster. He was sick. Birmingham City were sick when John Eustace was sacked. Wayne Rooney comes in. They're now 20th. It has been a disastrous appointment, and I'm going to laugh at Frank Lampard as the next manager. I have heard Frank Lampard. I've heard potentially Gianfranco Zola as well. Just stay away from the old players as managers. Lampard is not good enough. Rooney's not good enough. And I'm even going to say it, Steven Gerrard isn't good enough.
Like, there's this curse in there with all these ex-player managers. Like, you can have an absolutely fabulous career, but yet when it comes to management, you can't organise anything. And the one thing I will say that's hilarious with Rooney, I think he's only had 2 victories in his actual tenure at Birmingham.
2 wins in 15 games.
One of them was Cardiff.
Where we
Of
just
course.
didn't turn up at all. Of course, it was us
Yep.
at home as well. And then the second one, they were extremely lucky because Sheffield Wednesday, they were playing so well, and they were just lucky with that second goal. How can you be that bad? Have any of you guys got anything more to add on Rooney?
We said Liam Rossini was the guy behind the Derby success. We said it. It's no coincidence that he's gone to Hull, stabilised the ship there, because I think he was originally a coach at Hull at the beginning of last season. The manager got sacked. He took the reins, steadied the ship, and built on that foundation this season. Granted, Hull have new owners. They not spend a lot, but there's a lot more players coming in.
I find there's a lot of momentum there as well at the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
From how Dyer has been.
But exactly that. But on the other hand, Rooney's gone into Birmingham. They're not exactly mugs, are they? This was granted, even if them being in the playoff spots was false hope for them, because everyone has a good start to the season. Like Michael Beale had QPR in first, and then next thing we know, they were in a relegation battle last season. But even to take them that far down is ridiculous. I think Birmingham need to go tried and tested next. They can't go with these, like, John Terry wants a job in management these days. Don't go in for him. He needs to I think players need to get their badges and earn them. There are managers in League One who are far more qualified than these star names of the golden generation. I think if I don't know a specific name that could come in, but it has to be someone tried and tested in the championship that can stabilize everything, get them away from where they shouldn't be, but also be good for the future. It can't be when Tony Mowbray went into Sunderland and lasted a year. Last few games, people were questioned, obviously, no plan B, etc., but it was still somewhat of a surprise that he went. It can't be let's get him for a year, because it's a start as you mean to go on with ownerships, and you can't keep doing that.
I completely agree. In fact, I think Mowbray is probably the best fit for the job with it at the moment. It's surprising to say, but for me in the championship with experience, the one thing you need is if you're having a bad season, you just need stability. And with the ownership turmoil, I know they have come in and done a lot of really good things at the start. I think they just need to get Mowbray in and go for the stable option for the time being, to be honest. Reece, do you have anything further to add?
Yeah, I actually do. And the one thing that I do want to add is the confusion surrounding it's just Rooney in general as a manager. I don't want to dwell on statistics, but we know the statistical side of him, and it's never been great. But he had a significantly better squad coming into Birmingham. So I don't get how they've went straight away from 6th position to 20th. You know what I mean? Like, how can you dwindle so far back? Because that squad is clearly good enough. They were in the top 6 for a reason. So how can they immediately go straight down? You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. Like, is it significantly just his coaching is bad, or were they just not interested, or they just weren't playing well? They were playing a different way that was actually going to keep them in the top 6. I don't know, but that it's quite telling how quick they went from a top 6 position to right down fighting literally just above the relegation zone. I don't understand that personally. I don't know how you can go that quick. There's collapse and then there's that. I think Rooney definitely hasn't worked out, but biggest belief is there's something extra going on there as well with these players where they just you can't just become that bad so quickly. Like, it's not possible. Like, I'd love to know what's going on there, because I don't think Rooney set their team up bad at all. It's just bizarre that they've went from 6th to 20th instantly. Like,
Absolutely.
It makes no sense at all.
It's just ridiculous. But aside from that, moving swiftly on. Let's get the tier list up, lads. I am so gassed for this, honestly. I can see Julio's excited as well. Right, let's get her prepared and chuck her on the other screen then. Right. So for anyone who is after a bit of context, what I have here, and yes, I have put the franchise FC Cardiff City meme badge on there.
Yes. Oh,
I'm not even joking.
This is brilliant.
If anyone zooms in on it, it does actually say franchise FC. I've got the edited version on there, so that is fantastic. Not sure how clear the numbers are as well, but since I believe it's 2012 on here, I have put all of the relegated teams in a nice little tier list, and we're going to grade them on how good they are. Basically, squad-wise, morale-wise, the whole shebang, pretty much. So we got the standard top tier. How did they go down? So pretty much, other seasons, would have they gone down? Probably not. And then sort of move down the table. Okay, they were quite decent. Would have stayed up in a lot of other seasons. Fairly okay. So. Who knows, to be honest. Some seasons good, some seasons bad. Not great. They were absolutely shocking. I imagine there's a few going in here. And then we got the special spot reserved for... I think there's definitely 2 teams that are going to go in here. Maybe 3 at a push. Because there's one that has a case to go in. But aside from that, I'm going to give it to you guys. Who wants to get started?
I'll gladly take the reins on this. Quite easy.
Go for it,
Fulham 2021 doomed.
Really?
Oh yeah, instantly doomed. Fulham 2021. Because frankly, the minute they came up, they overspent. They were sacking managers left, right, and centre. They refused to play Alexander Mitrovic when he was scoring for fun.
Sorry, this isn't that season.
That's 19.
Reece, that's 18-19. This is when Scott Parker was in charge.
Aye, we'll put them both in there and doomed anyway. Put them both in because it's technically the same reason. They were both doomed anyway with Scott Parker, so we'll put 2021 in doomed anyway. Aye, 2019, sorry, the overspending. They got it massively wrong and got what they deserved. Sorry, so put both of them in doomed.
That's a fair point. I wasn't thinking precisely doomed with them because I do think they had some all right moments, in particular the 21 season. But one thing I would say with it, though, on the other hand, is I think there's 2 teams that are much worse than what they had. But we'll get to them shortly. Either way, gonna go to you, Doug. Oh, there he is. Oh, I should have put that on full screen. Oh,
pass the parcel.
Jesus Christ.
7. Yeah. I'm going to go for one of those Norwich sides.
There's so many of them, isn't there?
There's so many. I mean, let's go for 2020 doomed. That team was just horrendously bad. And I think they were doomed to go down from the start. Yes, COVID and all this, but they were doomed to go down from the very, very start, in my opinion.
I completely agree. That was, I mean, the way they came up, everyone thought they were going to go up singing and dancing. They were horrendous. Julio, go for it, sir.
Sunderland 17, doomed.
For me,
Big
that's
Sam
not even a
left.
contest.
Moyes comes in, absolute dross that they sign. Papi Djilabodji, Didier Ndong didn't win their first Premier League game till November, and apart from a 4-goal win at Crystal Palace away in like January, they sold some of their better players in January to accommodate others as well. You sell Patrick Van Aanholt for the likes of Darren Gibson and Jolien Lescott and Stephen Pienaar to come in on contracts. You were only going one way. I felt bad for Moyes, but it was out of his depth in the sense of that was a job that was too bad for him. I think Moyes was lucky that the next job he picked was salvageable, because that wasn't.
I mean, look at where they ended up the season prior after as well. Double relegated, just the signings. That was an absolutely horrible time for them. And not only that, 17 was a horrible time for North East clubs as well. Minus Newcastle. Absolutely hilarious.
I think as well, obviously it's been highly sort of well documented that obviously Sunderland till I die was that season, that championship season where they had was it Simon Grayson and Chris Coleman, like two very, very interesting appointments, and then it was Jack Ross after that. Look, I've got to say that Sunderland side was really, really bad. I seem to remember, was it Papa Djilabodji? They had some very weird signs. Didier Ndong as well. It was just not a great Sunderland side at all.
I completely agree. I'm going to join the party as well. I just think we just need to keep throwing some in dooms. Who remembers the 15-16 Aston Villa team?
Oh my god, they were so bad.
Remy Guards. There's a name to remember. Remy Guards
as well.
Gabby Agbonlahor talks a lot for a guy who was in one of the worst relegation teams of all time. Can we just point that out?
Yeah.
In fact, they're going to go in doomed, but I think they just need to go all the way to the end. For me, they were
off the screen.
Off the screen, literally. If I put them off the
basement,
screen, I would.
The basement of doomed, like bottom barrel club. Honestly, that
horrific.
Oh my god. Jolien Lescott tweeting a picture of a Merc from his pocket.
Right, I'm gonna give you one that I'm like, how the hell did they go down? Leicester City 2023. The amount of talent in that squad, and they just completely fell off a cliff. I think they were like 12th, I think, at Christmas, and then they just fell off a cliff after that. How they went down with the amount of talent that they had in that team. Barnes, Vardy, Tielemans, Ndidi, even they had obviously Danny Ward, Iverson. Like, they've still got the bulk of their squad that they've got right now, and they're doing a lot better. So how the hell they went down is anyone's guess.
I think as well, to add for that, I was mainly thinking, because I was debating whether it was going to be top 2 for Leicester. I think I was really tempted to go in quite good just because of how long it took them to sack Brendan Rodgers, which caused them to just shoot themselves in the foot. But I'm sorry, even like at Brendan Rodgers' worst, he should have kept that up. That was
Yeah,
absolutely
definitely.
shocking.
But you know what he's like? He thinks he's better than what he actually is. So he walked out because he doesn't want a relegation to his name. He's just as responsible for that as they are.
100%.
And I think if I had to pick another one as well, I wouldn't say doomed for obviously Southampton, but I would say terrible. They were really, really poor.
Especially with that season as well. With the quality in it, or they just didn't have a chance. I think in some seasons though, which maybe warrants them going up one, I think they could have stayed up at a push, but it would have been like last day, if that, because there was the quality there. But at the end of the day, sacking Hassan Hootel shot themselves in the foot. Sellers came in, did what he could, but I mean, Reece, you put your opinions right on the line throughout that season, didn't you? Saying they would be doomed.
Mm-hmm. If they got rid of him, absolutely. I'm a prophet.
Your turn, Reece.
For me, I'm gonna put that Bournemouth 2020 team in doomed.
Really?
I actually have a hear me out on them.
And me.
The reason why they're in doomed is purely consistency of selling their best players. They even in the Premier League at that time, they still had a bit of money to even try and put some resource into their team. They didn't bother. Then they just got rid of their manager, so they had nothing to stake on. They were never going to be there, and it was inevitable from the very start.
Maybe
They were
considering other
they
seasons
are,
as well.
But they are doomed incarnate.
Julio, what's your thought? What's your sort of counter argument on that?
My thought was, how did they go down? Simply because of the Aston Villa Sheffield United game where goal line technology failed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was thinking exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
because technically speaking, they wouldn't have gone down.
Potentially, but the way they were still playing that season, I don't know if you could put how did they go down in that circumstance when they were worse than both teams anyway.
I think that a lot of other seasons they would have gone down actually as well.
Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
Compared to like squads, so
they were hanging by a thread.
I don't know why. I'm thinking okay. Maybe lower. I don't know.
There were a lot of teams that worse. I mean,
not compared to them. No, they were the worst team I watched that season. They were worse than Sheffield. Even though Sheffield only won one significant game, like Bournemouth were generally worse. They are. Well, when I think of doomed, I think of Bournemouth.
What do you think, Doug?
I wouldn't say doomed because I think Bournemouth actually were okay to sort of begin with in that, and then obviously COVID struck, and then I think the thing with them is that they're a team that really counts on their fans, and I think that's what sort of did it for them in the end. I was thinking okay, but I was thinking actually between okay and 50-50.
Julio, you have a deciding vote.
I'll put them in terrible.
Interesting.
I'll put them in terrible. I don't think they're doomed.
Mm-hmm.
My hear me out obviously was because of the goal line technology failing them, because otherwise they would have stayed up.
Yeah.
They might have gone down the season after though. I think other seasons that Bournemouth team still goes down. I mean, 34 points doesn't keep you up in a lot of seasons from what I'm seeing. Like in 2012-13, you go down with that. In 2013-14, you stay up. In 2014-15, you're down. And arguably there are some worse teams that should have gone down, stay up because Bournemouth got that points total. Obviously, you've goal line technology, so I'll stick them in. I'd say put them in terrible for that one.
Interesting. Well, you know what? With the consensus of the panel, I'm going to boost it up to not great. Just for the time being, we might move it round in a bit. You know what? I'm going to get another controversial one out of the way. Hull City 2017, Marco Silva towards the end of that season. With the quality, I think they're up there with Leicester. Andy Robertson, Harry Maguire was doing decent. Umar Niasse had a great season as well that year.
Maguire looked transformed in that team.
He did.
They first 4 games of
Great
that season
midfield as
under
well.
Mike Freeling was all right. Then it stagnated very much so. If Marco Silva had come in sooner, maybe they might have stayed up. I mean, the issue is they were 6 points off Watford, who were in 17th. Marco Silva
It's actually mad to think. It's actually mad to think as well. We got Andy Robertson from that team.
I still think for £10 million, that was an unbelievable signing at the time.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, I'm in total agreement. I can't believe that Hull side Hull side went down. I'm looking at this, and there's only one side I can put in that doom section. Wolves 2012. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. That team was just dreadful.
They started that season quite well. I think first couple of games they won their first few games. Then it fell off. They lose in the derby in February. They sack McCarthy and they give it to his assistant till the end of the season. That's asking to go down, and especially when they got relegated the year after as well.
Just a reminder that Terry Connor, I don't think, won a single game since February.
No, I don't think he did.
He was so bad.
I think he drew against Newcastle in his first game, coming back from 2-0 down. The Wolves board were like, okay, we'll give it to you till the end of the season.
Another one that I will say about that Wolves team is another double relegation.
Yes, that's right.
And and not only that as well, look at how long it took for them to bounce back, and an ownership change. Well, they were just.
I mean, if we're being honest to ourselves as well, that Blackburn team 2012 under Steve Keane was dreadful.
It was so weird. Doug, do you remember that Christmas? I think they took a point away at Anfield, and then they beat United at Old Trafford.
Yeah, they did.
Like, they won some crazy games that season.
I remember
they were still dreadful.
I remember that year as well. We had them in the Carling Cup. Obviously, that was the season we got to the final.
Yeah, of course.
All the Cardiff fans were like, "Okay, this is an up and coming team who should be fighting for." Well, we should have gone up that year as well with the squad we had. Let's give it a good go. I don't know why we destroyed Blackburn, but we felt so underwhelmed. Probably because of just how bad they were.
Blackburn had some good young players in that team, most notably Stephen and Zonzi. They had some good young players in that team.
You won the league at Ewood Park, didn't you?
The year before, yeah.
Yeah.
So May 2011, we won the league at Ewood Park. Steve Keane obviously had replaced Big Sam that season. He went into the next season, obviously after keeping them up. And then good young team. I think they wanted to, you know, where teams will make a change now and they want to play attacking football or at least nicer football. That's what Steve Keane, I think, had at least what he thought he could bring to the table, Blackburn, and they had some nice young players, but it's terrible.
Yeah.
Yakubu carried them as far as he could.
Yeah. I mean, I think if we're being honest to ourselves, Reece, I think you might agree with me with this one. Steve Keane just not cut it for a manager. Director of football, fine. Manager, definitely not.
Oh, absolutely. One I'm actually going to shock you guys with is Norwich City 2014. I'm actually going to put in how did they go down. So
I agree.
It's the only Norwich
I
team
agree with that.
Put high up. It's the only Norwich team I'm going to put so high because they were actually quite a decent team.
I mean, in 13-14 as well, they were. I don't know why that season just had an abundance of absolutely shocking teams.
It did. And managerial changes, especially down the bottom. Norwich sacking Chris Hughton
Ridiculous.
was
Yeah.
surprising, but it was almost desperate. And then, because the thing is, above them in the table, for example, was West Brom, who sacked Steve Clark, brought in Pepe Mel, unknown to the Premier League.
Oh God, Pepe Mel.
And I think
dear me.
he basically kept them up based on the fact I think Norwich lost 1 or 2 games extra.
The loss
He did,
against,
'cause
the
you
loss
had-
against Man United. The loss against Man United, Ryan Giggs was interim charge, really took it out of Norwich, because that's when it started.
Well, put
Yeah.
it this way with the quality as well. Just looking at the league table, if you had 40 points, which tends to be the benchmark for staying up, you would have been in 13th that season.
Yep. Because it was
I
that
mean,
bad
that-
a league campaign. It was
It
generally
was.
that bad a league campaign.
And literally Hull City got Europa League that year.
Just from
That's all
FA
you
Cup
need to say.
participation. And they finished 16th.
Incredible.
Yep.
Absolutely incredible. In
What,
fact,
I,
I'm-
what I will say, what
Go
I
for
will
it.
say as well, and this is an absolute easy one. Queen's Park Rangers, 2013 in particular, all that money they wasted on such a good squad.
Mm.
They're also a how did you go down? Like
Yeah.
how?
Yep.
Like
100%.
you had a manager who did not get relegated at all in Harry Redknapp, and you overspent to the point where he quit just to avoid a relegation, and then they came back and they still got relegated the second time, and he quit both times.
Do you
Like, they just did
remember?
not
Do
spend
you remember
this
the
money.
game between? Do you remember the game between Reading and Portsmouth? Like both of them were already relegated, and I think it was Brian McDermott and Harry Redknapp, and you just like both of them just laughed. Like both of them just had laughed at like how bad the bad a
No,
game that was.
do you know what
like,
it
the
was?
thing-
Do you know what it was? Whoever didn't win got relegated. So either team had to win to stand a chance. So because
Yeah.
it was a goalless draw, they were both down.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah,
And
and
then you
they-
see
and
Jose
they both-
Bosingwa
and they both
laughing at the end
bounced.
of the game.
It's unbelievable.
Rightfully so, they both bounced as well.
Mm.
One that might strike opinion, and I'm going for it, because I actually thought they were a decent team. I'm going to say Huddersfield 2019 was actually 50-50.
I disagree
Yes.
massively.
I significantly disagree. They were lucky this previous season
I don't
in
think
that
it was
all
luck.
other three teams were so bad. All 3 teams the previous year had horrendous shit shows. Huddersfield
They were.
couldn't bank on that the second season in a row. Sacked the manager by January. They were bottom. They were terrible.
The two sides
Yeah,
you got
they
to
were.
flip on it as well was
The only reason why I think it's 50. The
Go
only
for
reason why I think it's 50-50. The only reason why I think it's 50-50 is one. I don't think they were necessarily bad in the first season. The problem is David Wagner was expected to change his style so quickly that the players that actually played good football coming up to the Prem immediately had to play a different way that did not suit them at all. So David
I
Wagner.
think as well. I think as well, Jan Siewert was an absolute disastrous appointment for Huddersfield.
Yeah.
Do you remember when Sky went into the John Smith Stadium and they thought they had actually been in, they actually thought they were interviewing Jan Siewert, and it was actually
God.
some random
Yeah.
person.
that was incredible.
it was
I
genuinely-
remember
It
that.
was genuinely that bad. I don't think any of the teams. I don't think Hull was necessarily better off because of poor teams around them at the time. I just think that pure and simple, that Huddersfield's biggest problem was they couldn't spend, so you can't put them in a financial battle to spend to stay up. But David Wagner shouldn't have changed his style to play in the Premier League when his style actually would have worked in the Premier League. That high pressing style, it was significantly important in the Premier League still at this time, and then at that point it was fitting in really well. That they could have just outworked teams. The problem is they went so hyper defensive to get results when they didn't actually need to go into that style because they would have been fine without it. I don't think they were worse off. I don't think they were doomed. I don't think they were terrible. I just think they
16
were
points, Reece.
there.
I mean, literally, that's less than Aston Villa. But obviously, was that no? Sunderland was a bit more, so they were literally competing with Derby at that point. The only thing I will flip it with Huddersfield and sort of back of
The
a
lowest
little
I'll go
bit.
is not great. The lowest I'll go is not great. I don't think they were anything worse than that.
They got less points than the Norwich team you've put in doomed, by the way.
But one other thing
On
was
the other hand, though, however, I will say
to be
that Premier League season, the standard was very, very good. So it could have been, for example,
that's why I will not put them so low as
seasons
well.
prior.
Because look how hard it was for any team that season just to finish in the top half. It was all over the place. It was all over the place. So that's why I'm not going to put them any lower than not great. Not great is probably the lowest I'd go. But 50-50, I think is generally reasonable.
Probably, I could see
There's still a
myself
few
maybe putting them up as well. Maybe
I've
but-
got another one for doomed, and I think you'll all agree. Sheffield United 2021
Oh my god.
couldn't
that
win a
game.
game until January.
I was trying to avoid
21
that.
didn't come that year.
One.
Yeah, I don't talk about. I think this is one of the worst cases of second season syndrome I've ever seen.
100%.
Like Chris
Oh,
Wilder,
got that,
everything
yeah.
just seemed out of it. They had the
Everything
players
seemed
they'd
out of it even
utilised.
after they came back from COVID. Even in that 1920 season, they didn't finish it that strongly. When they came back from COVID, they were never the same, and they took that bad momentum into the next season.
And not only
we
that
haven't
as well,
got
I
to the
think.
worst case of second season syndrome yet.
Oh yeah,
We're
I
about
think
to- well, that's
Reece
where
is
exactly
about to
where I'm
say
going
which one.
next.
I will
Yep.
say that with Sheffield United, look at the amount of money they wasted on strikers. Brewster, Oliver Burke, Ollie McBurney.
Oh my gosh. He's not strikers.
Absolutely horrendous.
Oliver Burke. Oh, good grief. I
If
forgot
you-
about that
see-
one.
You know what's funny? See out that bunch of strikers, Oliver Burke was the only one that was actually trying to keep them up, in my opinion.
Mhm.
I don't think Oliver Burke. I
Because
don't
the
think
others were
Oliver Burke's
terrible.
like Oliver Burke genuinely like decent at Celtic, to be fair. Good at Leipzig. When Leipzig first got to the Bundesliga as well, he was in that side with Selko and Poulsen when Poulsen could run, and Werner when Werner was obviously late teens, early 20s. Like Oliver Burke was fantastic in that cutting in role that he was asked to do, pressing from a wide position. Jesus Christ! And that's when I was watching them all the way throughout that point from getting the promotion campaign. And I was watching Oliver Burke play for them. He was excellent for them. He was genuinely brilliant. And Sheffield United did not use him like that. And you know what's worse as well? Scotland didn't do the same thing at the time. They chose Oliver McBurney as a target man over Oliver Burke, who would work for the team. Massively got it wrong. So to hell with them for mistreating him, Oliver Burke, even though he played for Celtic.
Question
Second
is,
season-
then, Reece, I think I know where you're going with this one.
Oh, the scum of the universe, Leeds United.
You know what?
Easiest.
I
That-
can't put them in doomed because
I
that
don't
squad.
think they were doomed.
They weren't
No.
doomed. They
I
were,
think-
they were
I will-
terrible.
I will-
Borderline
I
dreadful,
will-
but not doomed.
I will because it's Leeds, but they weren't the team I was at. They weren't the only team that I was thinking of.
I think
I'm
sacking
not gonna
Bielsa
go
was a
huge.
mistake as well.
Yeah,
Imagine bringing in
I'm not
Jesse
going to go
Marsh.
for my usual. Yeah, that to be fair, that made me laugh considering what he already did that season. I'm not going to go for it straight after Norwich again. I think that's quite cruel. I always pick on Norwich, so I'm actually going to go for a blinder, and I am going to say Bolton 2012 was actually okay.
I was going to say that as well because
Yeah.
they got 10
Yeah.
wins, and in 7 of those seasons, they would have stayed. Of the other seasons, they would have stayed up.
And
They
also,
had a decent squad as well. I felt sorry for him because I know they were struggling for a few years, but they kept it consistent. And after that, A, we haven't seen them back, and B, they've really dropped down the leagues.
also look at the managers they also appointed in those upcoming seasons after they got after Sam Allardyce left Bolton to go to after he went to Blackburn. No, he went to Newcastle then Blackburn.
Yeah.
like Owen Coyle, like that ginger bald guy who's a rip off of Sean Dyche. I can't remember his name. It's
Gary
Aye,
Megson.
it's been so long since I've seen him. He was awful for them as well. Like they were just appointing people left, right, and centre, and then the financial issues hitting them. Boom. I don't think they were
Sammy
generally bad.
Lee, I think, was manager at one point.
I think Little
Yeah,
Sam was after Big Sam, and then Megson came in, and then Owen Coyle, I
Coyle
think,
was
lasted the longest, and he made them quite difficult for about a year and a half.
Owen Coyle's Bolton side was actually okay to watch. I mean, if you
Yeah.
like really terrible,
It's
if
that
you like
final
really
season.
terrible football, yeah. My only thing for them though is they just kept making so many managerial changes that even the players didn't know what was coming next. Even they had.
Yeah.
If you're sacking so quickly, how are you supposed to respond? And they were sacking managers after 3 defeats in a row. 3 defeats in a row, you're sacked. Get a new manager and hoping it will change. And I'm like, that's no wonder they got relegated. They couldn't get anything across. It's just sack. They thought they were Chelsea. One of another clubs that thought they were Chelsea when it came to managerial sackings. But yeah, in abundance for me, I don't think they were bad. I think they were just okay. And another one that was just okay, and Nathan's probably going to hate me on this. Swansea 2018, I actually thought was okay.
Nah.
They lost their last 5 games,
disagree.
Reece.
They were horrendous.
Yeah, they were. But to be fair, they also gave me Ronaldo Sanchez in the Premier League, so I can't be too harsh.
Mate, he was.
And he flopped.
All I will say is that Chelsea game.
I'm a Ronaldo Sanchez stan. I have to defend that little walking Portuguese machine. So
I don't think you can defend.
Was that the season where Eden
Simon.
Hazard got sent off for kicking a ball boy?
No, that was a few years before. That was the Laudrup days when they actually looked good.
When they won it.
Right, okay.
That was.
But no, that Swansea team were dreadful.
The thing
they did hang Paul Clement out to dry though.
Oh,
100%.
Fair on him.
100%.
They hung him out to dry. Alright, I'll go lower then. I'll put them in not great. Because if anything, they weren't bad. I'll put them in not great.
For me, I cannot put them in the same category as either the Bournemouth or Huddersfield teams, because I think
they weren't a bad
with
team.
The 2 seasons prior, they were lingering with it. They kept on making the same mistakes. And I think with the way that squad regressed as well.
Their relegation battles to 3 different managers.
Yeah. That's
the
what
season before they got. The season before they went down, they had 3 managers, I believe.
Carlos Carvajal was one of them.
No, he was the manager that took them down. The year before.
Oh,
it was Clement.
Was Bob Bradley?
Bob Bradley, and they had
awful.
I can't remember the Italian's name.
Francesco Guidolin.
The previous year.
Yep,
That year they had
Oh,
3 managers.
the one that sounds like like a violin name, Guidolin.
Yeah.
He was awful.
He was so bad.
It was shocking.
But
The actual strength of it is they're not all too. I don't think they were as bad though as many thought. I think terrible's fair. Last one I'm going to say before I stop talking for a little while. Wigan 2013 is
How did they go down?
Yeah. Thanks for the FA Cup final win though, just for banter reasons of course, but
every year they would do their surgeons, their final surgeons where they would win like ridiculous games against the big teams. Towards the end of the season they stay up, but this one was just
no Rodallega, no party. I'll put them in quite good actually. I'll put them in quite good, and the reason I'll put them in quite good though is because I think if you put them in how did they go down, it's almost like the where everyone pretty much expected it from Wigan, and when you've got that reputation of just expecting it, then it's ironically it's similar to Sunderland. Sunderland were the same situation for 3 seasons running, where it was literally how long before eventually they go down. Wigan were the same. Wigan just kept finishing so low and low that you thought, when are they going down? And
to be fair, what a run they had though. For the size of the club, phenomenal. But I think as well with they're not how did they go down material? Because I think there is a few other seasons where they would have struggled as well. In particular,
They changed
like
goalkeeper
19,
that year.
etc. etc. They did.
Joel Robles played that year. The other years prior, they had Ali Al Habsi, who was a proper he was actually a solid goalkeeper.
For me, Al Habsi is a streets won't forget keeper, especially
Fact.
at both Premier League and Championship.
He's
Like
not the only
Reading
one,
days,
but
wicked.
he's definitely up there.
Not to mention, they also had Aruna Cooney as a number 2.
Oh my god! It was that season. It was just for that one season.
Yeah, he wore the number 2. No wonder he got relegated. The guy thought he was going to play a right back, but he was playing as a striker.
Oh dear.
Have I got
of
the
it-
pick here, have I?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, go for it, Doug.
Stoke doomed 18. Who appoints Paul Lambert as the manager and decides that's a good idea?
Norwich City, Aston Villa.
The
name a
only like argument I have against doomed. You're right. I agree. Why would you hire Paul Lambert? My only issue is
If you hire Paul Lambert,
They-
you don't deserve to
they
be in the Premier
had
League anyway.
they had a good team. They had good players.
Yeah,
and
they
in
did.
fact,
They shouldn't have gone down with the squad they did. But obviously, when you're hiring Paul Lambert, you are asking to go down and not come back up again.
Yeah.
I think
No,
as
if
well
you-
with that, thinking of it, I know 18 was really poor for the 3 relegated sides and in general, just the league that year as well. Well, the bottom half of the league that year. We'll just leave it at that. But for me, Stoke goes up one. Who remembers that West Brom side?
3 managers: Pulis,
Shocking.
Pardew, and then Darren Moore gives everyone a little hope. Hands City the league title as well at Old Trafford.
Yeah. That's
For
right.
me, that Pardew
But
appointment,
that West
especially
Brom
the
team
way
was
he
terrible.
ended, especially the way he ended at Newcastle as well. That
I
what
read-
I was thinking at the time, that is one of the worst appointments that they could have made.
I remember reading an article after that season ended when West Brom got relegated, and obviously everybody knows that Ron Atkinson used to be a West Brom manager back in the 80s, synonymous with black players, eh? So, and obviously everyone remembers the Ron Atkinson situation when the Champions League game on commentary. So somebody had it was a journalist, I can't remember what it was, but it was about 5-6 months after that season. I remember reading it, and they had the pure cheek. This journalist had the pure cheek to say that Ron Atkinson was branded a racist for one comment made in the Champions League, but the owner of West Brom is an even bigger racist for giving the job to Darren Moore, and Darren Moore is the only black manager to get us relegated. And I'm not joking.
Yeah,
that's an article.
I remember that being said. Yeah.
And
It
they
was
were like,
the
how can you
Pardew
blame
appointment
Darren
was stupid. The Pardew
Very
appointment was
silly.
stupid. They had
don't think
they
it-
had
I don't
they
think
had
it
a lot of
was.
Premier League experience in that squad. Johnny Evans, Gareth Barry, etc. You sack Pulis, okay, fair enough. You bring in someone else then to try and play the complete opposite of what they were playing. That team was built like Big Sam was available at the time they sacked Pulis. They should have gone for Big Sam because he would have just walked in and it would have been a lot better. He went into Everton and took them to 8th, but
Right.
Pardew's the wrong appointment.
I'm going to do these 2
Mhm.
in a row. So Fulham 14 doomed.
Oh
The
my god,
Felix-
they were terrible.
Three
Felix
managers.
Magath. And this might be a bit controversial, but Cardiff 14, I'm going to put 50-50. I don't think that was a bad team that went down.
For me,
No,
with the
Malky
start,
would
I
have
agree
kept
with
them
that.
up.
he would have, because the
Club
start
you
politics
second
is what took them down.
I mean,
Hmm.
I say it all the time, but that season for me was more memorable for the protests than actually being in the Premier League.
Yeah, and Vincent Tan deciding Cardiff to be red. Dear, oh dear.
We
Yep.
literally, just to get rid of it, just all of the red stuff, we literally told him, no one is going to renew our season tickets until you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And you would just have empty stadiums. Like that's when
and
you
I-
know.
I just have to say that Fulham 14 side was dreadful. Felix Magath horrendously
The
bad.
names on the listen on paper, that shouldn't have been as bad as it was with the names. But you lose 6-0 to Steve Bruce's Hull that season.
I know. Of all managers,
Doug, I don't know why you're
6-0
laughing.
win.
You lost 3-1 to that team, and that was your
Yeah,
title
I
challenging
know.
team.
I know.
Incredible.
To be fair,
Yeah,
we also got mugged by them as well.
I will say a little stat with Franchise FC, as they're very well known. Under Malky Mackay, we were not once in the relegation zone for the entire time he was in charge. Even under Kerslake, we weren't. Under the caretaker as well. Solskjaer comes in, signs a completely different team. The squads and the actual starting lineups were completely different, so we actually somehow made it worse, even though the players were there. And at the end of the day, I seriously think if we kept Malky Mackay in and
You would have had a
Hayden
chance,
Sack
at
Moody,
least.
I think we would have been mid-table. I don't know whether that's biased.
Do you know what?
But
That's obviously you can
I
put
don't
it down
think
to
you would
Ole
have
Gunnar
got
Solskjaer and the
mid-table.
recruitment, but club politics sealed the relegation for you, because if it wasn't for that, Malky Mackay wouldn't have been sacked. Obviously, if he hadn't been sacked, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wouldn't have been hired, and it wouldn't have been as bad as it was.
I agree.
Yep. I'm going to make an executive decision here.
No,
And
hang
I'm
on.
gonna-
I haven't picked a club for the last like 6 or 7 of them. I've chipped
You're
in
gonna get-
when it's been your turn, but
You're gonna get the next 3 in a row if you give me this ruling.
I think I deserve more than 3 in a row. But go on.
I will.
Where you go
Fine.
with
I'll grant you 4 in a row. The reason I'm saying is by proxy. Norwich 22, Watford 22, and Watford 2020 are all doomed because they were an absolute embarrassment to the Premier League. And everybody knows how many times I slagged them off on streams on this podcast. They were absolutely awful. They should never have been the Premier League each time. They should never
Norwich
been there.
sacked Farker and brought in Dean Smith, so
And
then
went back.
understandable.
That was a
Watford
panic
22.
They brought in Chris Wilder at the end, another panic appointment.
The
that
Watford
season
20
was full of it.
The Watford
And they
20,
sold
they
João
were
Pedro.
terrible. I'd say terrible only because 2 reasons. One, on paper, that team shouldn't have been as bad as they were, and secondly, they stopped Liverpool going invincible that season.
They did, and also at times they looked fantastic. And not only that as well.
Nigel Pearson made me think they might stay up.
They did, and who was the manager at the start of the season? I keep forgetting his name.
They had Javi Gracia, then they
Javi
sacked him
Gracia.
after 4 games or something like that. They
He
brought in
was
Quique
awful.
Sanchez Flores again,
Oh,
and then they
Oh, of
sacked him.
course, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the 4. That was the 4 manager season. I forgot about that.
that was
Mm.
awful. Another thing as well, though, they did stupidly wasted the potential of João Pedro.
They did.
Facts.
Luckily, he's elsewhere. I think he could be a bigger club in the summer. João Pedro. I think he's fantastic.
He's at
Right,
the right
Flores,
club.
Flores, yours, Julio.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Let's see what I've got here that is left. Cardiff
Just
18-19.
Just don't do a mic deep for explaining your points. It takes you a whole century.
Cardiff 18-19 would have stayed up. Would they have stayed?
No, they
Okay,
wouldn't
maybe
have.
not. No, I'm trying to see if they would have stayed up in a lot of other seasons. Do you remember I said for Bolton, I think
Yeah.
it was, they would have stayed up. It wouldn't have been that
don't
for
think they
Cardiff. But Cardiff had 10 wins. Apart from Bolton, none of any of these relegated sides got that many wins.
Another thing as well, you need to add
You're
another
bringing
2
up
wins.
Chelsea.
You need to Chelsea and Burnley. You need to add another 2 wins there. For me, that's not. I don't know whether that's really bias or
I'd put them in not great.
referee.
I'd only put them in not great because I actually thought that if any of those 3 teams that went down would have had a chance of staying up, it would have been that Cardiff side. Not just because the other 2 were dreadful, but Cardiff had some games where they narrowly lost out, or so.
Reasonable.
I'd say we're really consistent that season, and obviously, so
There was
we
fight
would've-
in that team.
Yeah,
You
and
could
not only
see
that
it.
as well, we would have stayed up with just the 1 win as well, which would have been the Chelsea one. That would have taken us to 39 points, and on top of that as well, yes, controversy bits here and there and stuff, but on paper as a squad, that was very good. And Warnock had
There
it
is a red
for me.
card at Selhurst Park.
Oh,
Ooh.
Dominic Calvert-Lewin has been sent off, apparently. Someone's just messaged me that apparently it's meant to be a red for Calvert-Lewin, so don't know what he's done. But if that's the case, then could be a long evening for Everton.
Hopefully, future United player Michael Olise scores.
That Cardiff season as well, that was the season the Emiliano Sala transfer was meant to happen. Obviously, sadly it didn't.
Oh,
and
of course, yeah.
The other striker you signed was Oumar Niasse, who was not particularly
He was
great.
a walking disaster.
Oh, Oumar Niasse.
If you'd recruited an actual striker in January instead of Niasse, you might have stayed up.
Just to remind you, that was also the
It is
season
good.
that we offered a contract to
also
Luis Diaz, and Tan said no.
Oh my god, you were telling me about this the last time we had a show.
It's also very awkward when you. It's also very awkward when you hear Niasse when you just say every time he's playing, he's literally just a pain in my ass.
Hey.
I love that.
Right, so what we're saying then,
for me, I
not
cannot
great or
put,
50-50?
I cannot put the 19 team below the 14 team, even though it's only 6 points apart. I want to put us in quite good.
10 wins. 10 wins.
I put them in okay. Because Bolton got 10 wins, Cardiff got 10 wins.
Yeah.
Cardiff had a lot of championship players in that team. That's why they're okay. If they had another striker or something, because you had Camarasa that season, did you not?
We did.
Yeah.
Awful.
If he had another player with him to pull the strings, as well as he did, you might have at least been in the section above. Another one I want to say was West Bromwich Albion 21, doomed. They came up. They had such a dreadful squad. They had a lot of championship players in that squad, and they didn't show an inkling of staying up.
And also, a certain man got relegated from the Premier League with this team for the first
Sam.
time.
Another thing I'd like to add with West Brom as well is, what is the golden rule with Big Sam?
Back him.
Loads of pies and gravy.
As well as loads of pies and gravy. If you don't back him, you're doomed.
Yep. Shea O'Donnell confirming that Calvert-Lewin is sending off down to 10 men. Oh, lovely. Everton are going out then. Who's your next two, mate? You've got two left.
Sorry, I was just reading the Calvert-Lewin because I saw there was a VAR check.
Fair enough.
So I think the check was giving him the card.
You'll get two each, which means by proxy we all get potentially two each after this. Well, there's 6 left, so we can narrow it down.
Burnley of 22. I'm gonna put them in. I'm gonna put them in not great, because their problem was, for the majority of the season, their problem was they just didn't win enough games. They drew a lot of their games.
They also weren't particularly doing anything significant to win those games, though. If you look back at those performances, they were all the same performance. There was nothing extra to them to try and get a win. There was nothing extra. I think they're terrible in my opinion.
Doug, would you agree with Reece with that one? Because 14 draws is a lot of draws. 17 losses wasn't the worst either. I think
it was a weird season that season for Burnley, and I seem to remember as well that obviously that was the season where Sean Dyche got sacked.
Yeah.
And then they decided to bring in was it Michael Jackson as and actually they beat Everton 3-2.
They did
as
win a
well.
couple of games after Dyche was sacked.
Yeah, they did. So they were unlucky to go down.
That Peacock Farrell was alright.
I'd have to agree. I'd probably say they were terrible.
Yeah, okay. That's fair enough. I'd put, based on that, terrible sounds fair, Nathan.
I agree.
Reece, how many more have I got?
One
more.
One more. Let's have a look. I mean,
There's one that I really want to tear into.
which one is it?
Is
What
it-
color are they?
Well, let's just say I'm wearing some of it.
Newcastle.
Okay, I wanted to talk about that one, but I'll leave that to you because mine's a discussion. I wanted to discuss that one with all of you. So
Yeah, because I have an opinion on it as well.
I can't wait to tear into that team, but still shock you where I put them.
I'll just say then.
There's a very easy one there, slapping you in the face.
I'm gonna say Norwich 16. Put that in doomed. Because whilst Mbakani scored a few goals, that's it.
I'm surprised you didn't go after Redden. Interesting.
I wanted to leave that to Nathan.
Yeah. I'm on the same line as Doug, I think.
I kind of disagree about the Norwich one.
Yep.
Because they actually had a pretty decent team that year. If you think about it.
I actually think they were 50-50.
Oh, yeah, they beat us at Old Trafford that year. I mean, a lot of teams did, but
we were involved in a 5-4
yes, it was that year.
Can't get my words out. We were involved in a 5-4 thriller against them in that season.
I watched that, and Liverpool were genuinely shocking to watch.
They had that Sebastian Bassong. They had Cameron Jerome. They had Mbakani, Stephen Naismith.
I was going to say they signed Naismith. That's fair enough then.
They had a solid defensive back as well. I think was it Alex Nealon at the time?
Yeah, looking very annoyed every week, no matter what the result was.
I'd actually say that Norwich side was 50-50. I don't think they were that bad as many people think.
Same. I agree with that.
Thinking,
I agree with that completely.
Yeah,
I'm a tiny bit inclined to go not great because mainly what happened.
I wouldn't put them. I think based on that,
that's an average out.
I wouldn't put them in doomed. I wouldn't put them in doomed because I'm looking at the other teams in there. Norwich weren't that bad, but they were not great either. They weren't 50-50 great for me. I think you'd put them either not great or terrible.
I think not great averages out really
Just
well.
very mediocre. Very mediocre.
Yeah. So pick a team each, declare it, and then that means we leave two over to discuss ourselves. So I'm saying Newcastle.
I want to take Borough and Reading.
I was going to go for Borough actually.
You get one, Nathan. You greedy bugger. You get one.
Yeah.
In that case, I'll go Reading then.
I'm going to go Borough.
Julio, which one are you taking?
I will go with.
So it's QPR, Hull, or Burnley.
All went down the same year, actually. They're all the same year.
They are.
They were all so mediocre that year.
Yep, they were.
Honestly, that QPR team was a meme.
So many big names. Again,
Neil Warnock.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't Warnock here. That was Harry Redknapp.
Was that not Mark Hughes' year?
No. So Redknapp was until February, called it quits because of his knee, and then Chris Ramsey took over, and then Warnock came in December the year after.
Chris Ramsey, that's it. Forgot about that one.
That was comedy.
I'll just pick Hull.
Right, let's do Burnley and QPR then. As a measure, so these ones have got to be agreed on. So start with Burnley. That
terrible
Burnley team, especially with the fact is like how well they actually won. They were in Europe not that long before it.
To be fair to Burnley.
Say that again. That was Europe. Who was in Europe?
Burnley. They were also in Europe not long before this.
No, they were in Europe 3-4 years after.
Yeah.
Was that the one after that?
Yeah, that was the 22 relegation.
That was the season where I think Burnley won at Hull, and I think they got relegated because of results went against them. Danny Ings, I
So
remember,
was.
had a pretty prolific year that year.
He was
Yeah.
brilliant, and the season before and after as well in the championship, because Sean Dyche was there at the time, but they kept hold of him and went straight back up immediately.
Yeah.
Didn't change the
bought
squad.
into him.
It was just
No, he
that
left
season
that
for me.
summer. He didn't go back to the championship with them. He went to Liverpool straight away.
Oh yeah.
And then Ings got injured when Klopp turned up with Joe Gomez in training, and they were just out for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Now I remember it. Yeah, I agree. Terrible. Doomed. Either option. This is Burnley.
Looking at some of the other teams in there, I want to go.
They were so average. They were just so average.
Yeah, I don't think they were that bad.
They weren't horrendous,
Yeah.
but there was nothing. There wasn't really anything about them that was like, do you know what I mean? Like Matty Taylor missed a penalty, and then Vardy went up the other end and scored in Leicester's great escape.
Yeah.
Apart from Tom Heaton, Michael Keane, Kieran Trippier, there weren't a lot of positives for Burnley that season.
But QPR was absolutely abysmal.
Oh,
Charlie Austin,
dreadful.
not even Charlie Austin's goals could keep him up.
No.
They're the easiest doomed of them all.
Well, I think I might still have the tab open, but let me find it, because I was having a nose at some of the names in this team. Robert Green.
There was a lot of Premier League experience in this team.
There was so
Neuer,
much in there.
Ferdinand,
Kolker
Bobby
as
Zamora
well.
was a backup striker. Kolker.
Lloyd Remy.
Isla was
Leroy
in on
Fair.
loan.
Joey Barton,
That was the best bit.
Zamora, Tarat as well.
They went down after
Oh.
losing 6-0 to Man City at the Etihad, by the way.
Adel
That's
Tarat.
right, yeah, that's...
Streets I'll never forget. Adel Tarat. He somehow ended up at AC Milan, the fraud.
Nah, this Adel Tarat that had come back, he put on the pounds. Like, you know, everyone at Christmas, you know, all of us at Christmas dinner, come on, we must have eaten loads and put on the pounds a bit. Adel Tarat did this all year for the previous 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
Went to Benfica, went to Milan on loan, went back to QPR.
How the
Even
hell he
Redknapp
ended
was
up in
like,
Milan
he's
shirt?
not fit to play. I can't remember if it was
Yeah,
that year or a
that
couple years before.
QPR side was...
Definitely
Well,
waiting to happen.
I think it's an understatement to say they were absolutely dreadful. They were doomed from the start. They were very, very poor.
They were.
And
Right.
another side that was doomed from the very, very start was Middlesbrough.
Lead in, on you go.
They bought a lot of
Yeah.
players, didn't they, that year?
They brought a lot of players.
Nugent.
Aitor Karanka was manager for a very, very long time, and then Steve Agnew took charge, which I never understood as well. It was just a team of individuals, just not willing to work for each other.
Go on, sorry, Doug.
Carry on.
Yeah, so I was going to just jump in and say there was no consistent performance with it. You'd have 1 week where they were attacking really well, getting loads of chances in, but just completely open at the back. Then the next week, they would be so solid in defence, yet they
They couldn't do one without the other,
they wouldn't,
essentially.
They wouldn't
Exactly.
get a shot in there. The midfield just didn't exist, and yeah, Karanka did well to get them up, but at the same time, 15-16 I think was really poor championship season as well. So for me,
They came
were
off in the
doomed.
playoffs, right?
Second.
No, I think they won the league.
No, who was it? 15-16. Newcastle won it.
No,
It was
Newcastle were in the Prem that season. 15-16, they went down. 16-17.
Let me have a look at it to remind
Middlesbrough
us.
came up. I think they won the league. I think Brighton bottled it on the last day.
Brighton did bottle it last year. Don't think it was Borough though. Let me have a look.
I've got a feeling Borough went up for the playoffs that year, but I could be completely wrong.
No, Hull went up through the
second.
playoffs that year. Diarmi
Yeah, because they
scored a
sacked
distance
Steve
goal.
Bruce, didn't they? Straight
Yeah.
away.
Because
Oh,
Burnley
right.
came up as well in second, I think. I think Middlesbrough won the league that year.
It's Norwich. No.
2015-16
It's actually-
season, Burnley won the league.
Oh, Burnley
Oh,
won
yeah.
that.
Right.
Andrew Gray was top goal scorer for Andrew Gray was top goal scorer for Brentford that year.
He was brilliant that
Andre
season.
Gray, good grief.
25
Gray.
goals.
Yeah.
Burnley won the league. Middlesbrough and Hull City got promoted. Bolton, MK Dons, and Charlton got relegated.
Just looking at the league table, that was a horrific season. That for me, pretty much all the sides in the Championship that were League One standards.
Even yours.
Yes. Well, it was our transitional one under Slade,
It
but
was, yeah, I was gonna say it was
Ipswich
your first
finished
year.
second.
Jeez. Russell Slade, oh good grief.
Russell Slade. He's got no one, but we don't care. Russell Slade.
Jesus
What a
Christ.
legend.
Right, Nathan, what you got to say about Redden then?
Hit and miss as anything. So they had, coming up the year prior, Shane Long, fantastic. They had some all right players in there, but at the end of the day, the manner in which they got relegated, losing 22 games. Ryan McDermott, just absolutely woeful. Bringing in Atkins, he couldn't do anything. I don't
Bringing
even
in
know
Nigel
what the point
Atkins
was in
like
for him.
5 minutes after he got sacked at Southampton as well.
What were they expecting? Like, I'm sorry. I don't think they were doomed because
They were
However,
terrible
they
though.
had a bit of substance in it. I think they were terrible.
They
They had a squad.
They also had the most memorable game that season. 7-5 versus Arsenal.
Oh yeah.
In the cup. Oh
Was
my
that-
god.
Oh
yes.
yeah.
That was that season. They should have knocked Arsenal out.
4-0.
Goals were
4-0 up they went. Jason Roberts scoring as well.
Yep.
Oh,
They
yeah.
were that game was very, very suspicious on how Arsenal managed to get back into that game. Even though Arsenal were a better team, you'd expect Arsenal to absolutely hammer them. How can you be 4-0 down and still win the match in extra time? Like something very, very strange there, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Clear assistance to Arsenal.
Arsenal got knocked out by Bradford that year.
Yep.
That's the funny part about it.
They had some good squad players though, like prime Chris Gunter in there as well. Who remembers Joey
Not
McAnuff as well?
Joey
Yeah,
McAnuff, yeah.
They had Jimmy Kebe, they had Lafondra, they had Pavel Pogrebniak.
Lafondra was so
Federici.
inconsistent.
Lafondra was by far the best player they had, though. By far.
I can't
He was
believe
The
he
only
got
good player they
Hibs.
had.
He just scored
Adam
goals for fun,
Lafondra.
Lafondra. He was just scoring goals for fun for them, and they got rid of him. I was like, why would you get rid of your main goal scoring threat? Like your only threat.
Plus,
He
not
was
only that as
gen-
well, they went on. If looking at it, they went on a 4-game unbeaten run under McDermott. So something must have clicked in January. But how bad is this when you win 2 games before Christmas?
It was
That's terrible.
expected to be fair. It was expected to be fair.
Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
got 2 left.
Right, Julio. On you go. Hull.
Hull 14-15. So started off the year, I think, in at least Europa League qualification. I can't remember if they made the groups.
I don't think they did.
They didn't make it far in the Europa League anyway. Even if they were in the groups, I don't think they got out of it anyway. Second season syndrome. Damon Doy came in January. Looked like his goals might have been enough to keep him up, even after Abel Hernandez was signed, I think, for a club record in the summer. Scored, I think, 1 or 2 on his debut, and then it just never clicked. I think it was Andy Robertson and Harry Maguire, I think, were some of the notable signings that summer. But for hindsight reasons, as opposed to for that moment, I think they made other signings like Hatem Ben Arfa and Gaston Ramirez, 2 players of which were not good in the Premier League at the time for different reasons. Ramirez wasn't cut out. They didn't rate him at Southampton, and Ben Arfa had, gone on the pies a bit, been to Greg's too many times up in Newcastle, and wasn't the same player as he was years prior. Unfortunately for Steve Bruce's Hull, they went down on the final day. They drew to United, but Jonas Gutierrez beating cancer and coming back and scoring that goal that kept Newcastle up. and the best coach in Premier League history in John Carver as well. What an achievement for him. Unfortunately, just sent Hull down. So I think it was a bit of second season syndrome and just not enough to compete. So
Am I wrong in thinking this? But didn't Alan Pardew headbutt Steve Bruce that season?
No, it was David Myler, and it was Alan Pardew versus Myler, and I think it was the year before.
No, the year before.
Yeah, it was
Right.
2014.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how like pointless pieces of information just hit your head.
Yeah.
You just remember
No, do you know
these
what the
things
thing
from
is,
Premier
though?
League years.
This is pure Barclays, and we don't have that anymore, and I miss it.
Yeah.
Like, imagine
I
going
miss it
through
as well.
some of the squads. Like, you go into Cardiff's franchise team, Kenwyn Jones. Pure Barclays name, that.
I still
Oh.
remember that Brentford game away where he just turns into prime Messi and then sends it over the roof of the stadium when he was 1-on-1 with goal.
Yep.
That was just incredible.
Oh,
Yep. It
yeah.
was
I can't remember what game it was.
Music.
I think it was when he scored his first goal when you were in the league that year. When I think Zaha came on at half time, suddenly you were back in it, and then Kenwyn Jones scored. I think you beaten Norwich that year. I think
Yeah.
it was Norwich. And, you know, seeing that, and because I think it was like 2008, 2009, I have a weird thing with Kenwyn Jones where every time I watched him on Match of the Day, I think he scored like 10 goals that season. I watched all of them that season. Every Sunday game I watched, he scored, and I just thought he was the best striker ever.
Yeah.
Because I never watched him apart from like 10 Match of the Days a season, and he scored in all of those games. So for a bit, I was like, this guy's good, surely. So that's where my weird Kenwyn Jones kind of like stocks come from.
So
Yep.
last word.
Names like
Reece.
that, Prime Barclays. I
Yep.
miss it.
Last one. It's definitely all mine on this one because this was an absolute clusterfuck. And relegation was confirmed ironically, by Sunderland. So this Newcastle team, that season, were an absolute joke to begin with. Firstly, they were spending money left, right, and centre. Like
The
David
one year
Sancho-
Mike Ashley spent money.
They spent 80
Yep.
million pounds.
They spent big money. They brought in Wijnaldum, Tovan, Mitrovic. Even in
Santon.
January,
Yep.
like they brought in
that
Shelby
January.
and Townsend in January, and
They
Doumbia
also
on
brought-
loan.
Yep, they are. They also brought in Florian Tovan, who they didn't deserve a player of that quality. But you've also got,
Steve
the
McLaren's
fact-
coach.
yep, they had him until
Wally with
they
the
had him
brolly.
had him until March. Then they binned him. They brought in Rafael Benitez, obviously. Ivan Toney went back out to Barnsley. Even he got recalled obviously due to injuries. Like they lost Lascelles, they lost Papa Cisse. Not that it really mattered. They let go of Gail Bigiramana that season as well on loan numerous times. Olivier Kettman was let go. Shane Ferguson was going left, right, and centre. They did not use Haris Vukic, even though Vukic was actually decent for them. Jack Alnwick obviously went to Port Vale. Absolute humour.
Super Jack Anakin goal.
Yep. They were all over the place. Like they had no direction, and it says a lot that their main goal scoring threat obviously was Wijnaldum. He was their top goal scorer. They were absolutely shocking. Sammy Abiobi was awful. Adam Campbell, dreadful.
Musa Sissoko.
Sissoko was nothing.
Everyone
that
just
season.
kept asking for more from him, and I find it hilarious that once they were relegated, they beat Spurs 5-1 on the final day.
Yeah.
But they were consigned to relegation because Everton won 3-0. Sorry, Sunderland won 3-0 against Everton.
Yep.
Martinez got sacked after that at Everton.
Yep.
Literally
So
after that
I'm
game,
just-
gone.
Yep. But I'm going to go in the bat by saying that Newcastle squad genuinely wasn't awful. The manager was absolutely dreadful. He couldn't coach. But on the flip side, also, those players weren't doing enough. Those players with the quality they had. Florian Thauvin was excellent for Marseille. And you're telling me they couldn't get him to create any more than what he was already doing. Wasted him. Quality player,
Another
wasted
one
him.
as well was how bad Mitrovic was, in particular around January, February.
Yep.
He was a young
They
striker. It was his first season in England. That's what I put it down to.
I don't
just
think
that
it was
like-
because straight away when he was loaned out to Fulham, he was.
Bang.
It's like he was watching another player.
No, to be fair, it was a couple of years till he was loaned out to Fulham.
Yeah.
What's
Rafa
interesting
wasn't
as well-
fancying him. Rafa had him for a couple of years, a year or so, and just wasn't fancying him. And it was by the time
I
he
do
went, it
remember
was
now,
2 and a
actually.
bit years.
They also made
So he
one
must
other
have
big
settled in
decision.
somehow. But
They also made one other really weird decision that season as well. When they brought in Tovan from Marseille, £12 million they signed them for, they made a stupid mistake. They loaned out Remy Cabella. They loaned out Cabella just to bring in Tovan when they should have kept Cabella, because he would have helped Tovan settle in a lot quicker, and Tovan would have been a much more bigger impact on that team.
And Cabella was
Iron-
a good player at this level
was
as
such
well.
a
He
good
was a
player.
solid mid. He was a solid mid-table Premier League winger at the time.
I like
quality
That's
wise,
what
yeah.
Cabella.
Was he producing the goods though? Because I think
Cabella
Cabella
never
must.
had a bag. Cabella
I would
never
have
had a
thought
bad game for
Cabella would have
Newcastle.
probably wanted to go, based on what Newcastle were the previous season. You know, Pardew didn't win a game for ages. Then he did. Then they stopped
weren't playing him in
Chelsea's
his number
unbeaten
10 role,
run. Then Pardew leaves, and John Carver takes the team, I think, mid-table down to a relegation battle.
So-called the best coach in
generally
the Premier
weren't-
League.
Hmm.
By the
They
way,
generally
guys,
weren't
it's
used-
gone to replay Sarhurst. It's 0-0.
Jeez.
Hmm.
Also, I've just been sent a video as well as of the red card. VAR has had a stinker. That was not a red, straight red.
I, for one, am shocked. I don't know what you guys think about that one.
I mean,
So where are we
I
putting this
for one-
Newcastle side then?
Yes.
I'm going to go in a bat, and I'm actually going to say they're 50-50 with that Cardiff side. They're
Yeah.
50-50 because the
They
bipolar
shouldn't have gone
management-
down, but my God, how bad it got for them.
They were
It
It
shockingly
takes a
bad.
special kind of coach to take that level of quality in that squad down.
bipolar management, and that's what Steve McLaren is. Like,
Yeah.
they were going nowhere, but also
100%.
they spent big, and I was like, why would you spend big on a manager that has never spent big in his life?
Ridiculous.
Madness.
So, looking at it all on the board now, does anyone have any suggested changes?
I mean, I
probably put it in one
still
more.
disagree on the Huddersfield point, but
You're,
You
you're
know,
still gonna
Reece-
you're still going to be overruled.
to each their own.
Yep. I also think we should just mark them in order of like the years they got relegated, just so it looks right.
Except for Aston Villa.
Yeah, Villa. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Get right to the end.
Hang on, which one's more embarrassing, Sheffield United or Aston Villa?
Aston Villa.
Aston Villa, because they're a bigger club, and they had a
Their
Probably
fans
Sheffield
literally gave up.
United a push because they didn't win a game until January.
And I don't
Cheers,
think they
Man
won.
United.
I think they won like 1 or 2 more for the rest of the year,
Yeah.
if that.
Another scenario with Sheffield United though is if, say, for example, COVID didn't happen, I
They're
think
not
they would
breaking
have.
that point. They're
Yeah,
breaking
they.
that points total.
I think it would have been much better.
Yeah.
Mm.
To be honest.
We're alive.
No, you're
well-
alive. That's the line you're willing to take. That's the bar you're
mean,
setting, Reece.
I mean, to be fair though, I had a quite power nap, but I was literally like awake from 10:30 yesterday morning till 5:30.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I've been
Guys.
sleeping fine, everything's been fine for me. So
Guys, I'm going to have to go, but thank you very much for having me.
Honestly,
We
Doug,
are-
thank you so much for coming
thank
back
you
on, man.
so much. It was so good to see you.
Legend.
My pleasure.
good seeing
My
you.
pleasure. I'll see you later. Take care.
See you later, my man.
See you
too.
later, mate.
Bye bye.
I think that's pretty much does it for this evening as well. I don't think we've got anything else to add, do we, chaps?
Don't think we do. The only one I'll say, just thinking about it, I know it's biased, but Cardiff go up 1.
No.
Which one?
Okay to quite good. Oh, what's it called? 19.
Oh right.
You behave with your bias. You
I
behave.
know.
I'd say okay. I'll keep him in okay. I think if you had like a Josh King or some kind of striker that could score at least more than 1 goal,
No. Still not enough.
maybe.
Do you want to know the funny thing? We tried to sign Josh King that season.
So did we, stupidly, a couple of years
We tried
later.
to sign him the year after for 25 million quid. We ended up with Odion Igalo on loan, and I don't think it's a coincidence that Josh King's career has taken a downfall ever since.
Not
Went down with Bournemouth, was not looked at Everton when he went to Everton, went to Watford, I think scored a hat-trick at Goodison Park, that was it, and now he's out in Turkey.
We only wanted him because he was flaming Norwegian, completely stupid. Just give me Timo Werner in January and we're cool.
Oh my god. Reece, I did want to ask, what are your thoughts on the Muller links?
I absolutely love Thomas Muller, but he's not going to fit in well at Man United if we sign him now. Like, he's older, and he's not going to get the space that he wants at his age. It fits him more in the Bundesliga, where he sets him up perfectly around the team that he's got. There's no setup at Man United for Thomas Muller to succeed. There isn't one. Just give me Timo Werner, at least he's got pace. And he can
Got
finish a ball.
something going for him.
Pace, and he can finish a ball. He'll be much more better suited this time than he was last time.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
But we don't need a... You're welcome. We don't really need... We don't need a January striker anyway. We need defenders.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much the last thing I've got to say on that. Nothing else I can think of.
Wicked. Julio, do you have any parting comments before we wrap up?
No. Any questions I have for Reece, I'll probably save for another show, actually, because he joined quite late, obviously. So there are stuff I wanted his opinion on when we were discussing earlier, but I'll just save them for another show because with United, it's the same stuff every week. So
yeah, I think we need a big segment on obviously Ratcliffe, and then with just to take over bits like that. I have.
We can do that coming up next show if we can do that. I don't mind.
Yeah, I'll
Isn't it your
say
show next?
another question backstage as well.
I think it's you.
No, I was the last one.
Yes, it's me. Done.
Wicked stuff, but guys. Oh yeah, there's actually I'll take that off the screen in case anyone wants to take screenshots of it. If anyone's watching back, etc. But aside from that, guys, that has been our first one of the calendar year. Got another 50 something to go as well. We're gonna absolutely smash it out this year. Probably even gonna do Euros content. It is a leap year, so an extra show as well.
Isn't it?
Yep.
Boy, have we got exciting times coming up. But make sure you guys stick around. Thanks for watching. Follow us on Spotify, subscribe to YouTube. Do what you can to support the channel. That would be appreciated. Do what you can to support the podcast. That would be appreciated. Share it around, guys.
And
Thanks for
Happy New
having us all. Happy New Year, lads.
Happy New Year.
See you later.
Au revoir.
Live on YouTube. And listen back on Spotify. This is the World of Football podcast.